Imagine giving everything you have for someone, only to realize that the world you stepped into doesn't want you there. A country, a family, a life you built with hope, and suddenly, it's like sand slipping through your fingers. This is the story of Jenny Slatten, a woman who fought every day, every moment, to survive a love that demanded her to vanish herself. Why did she finally leave? And could Sumit have saved her, or was this heartbreak inevitable? By the end of this video, you'll witness raw emotion, shocking realizations, and the hidden truths of a love story that almost no one outside that room understood. Stay with me, because what comes next isn't just heartbreak. It's a lesson in love, sacrifice, and the limits of endurance. The silent burden of love. Jenny had once believed that love could conquer anything. She had crossed continents, leaving everything familiar behind, determined to embrace a new life in India. Every sunrise brought hope. Every sunset carried the weight of constant judgment. The streets, the traditions, and the relentless scrutiny, she faced it all with quiet determination. But after 10 years, hope alone couldn't shield her. Every criticism from Sumit's family, every whisper, every sigh of disapproval chipped away at her spirit. She had survived public humiliation, cultural clashes, and the silent messages that she didn't belong. But surviving isn't the same as thriving. And on one fateful morning, the weight became unbearable. It wasn't physical exhaustion, it was something far deeper, a void where hope had once lived. The day it all shifted. The morning sunlight spilled across the kitchen, and Jenny sat silently, staring at the cup of chai Sumit had made. Once this gesture might have comforted her. Now it felt like a reminder of all the small efforts that couldn't heal the life constantly undermined. Every fiber of her being told her she couldn't keep going. Her heart, exhausted from 10 years of compromise and quiet suffering, finally began to whisper truths she had denied for too long. She was alone here. She would never be accepted. And love, no matter how fierce, could not erase the pain inflicted upon her by a world that refused to let her belong. The family's unyielding judgment. The evening before, Sumit's family had visited, a word that disguised the ambush it really was. Harsh words, accusations, and blame for choices that should have been theirs alone. Jenny listened silently as they tore into her, not with concern, but with the cold, deliberate cruelty of people convinced she was the problem. This is your fault. You've ruined him. You're too old. You brought shame. And in that moment, something inside Jenny snapped. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She simply became quiet. A silence so complete that it echoed louder than any yelling. Even Sumit noticed the change. He tried to intervene, to defend her, to reason, but his words fell on walls built over decades of family tradition and expectation. Nothing could reach them. The breaking point. That night, Jenny lay awake while Sumit tossed in restless sleep. Her mind replayed every triumph and every heartbreak. Their wedding, their laughter, the first nervous steps she took into India. All of it was a fragile facade, now crumbling under the weight of repeated rejection. And she realized the unthinkable. Love alone was not enough. A heart stretched thin by rejection, humiliation, and exclusion reaches a breaking point. No promise, no vow, no declaration could fix it anymore. And Jenny, finally acknowledging this truth, made a decision she had avoided for too long. The final decision takes form. Morning came, and Sumit left for work. Jenny quietly walked to their bedroom, staring at the closet filled with clothes she had carefully chosen to fit in, to please a society that never truly accepted her. She looked at photographs, each one a reminder of happiness and pain intertwined. She held on to memories of joy, but couldn't escape the recurring shadow of despair. Her hands shook as she pulled out her suitcase. Every fold, every item packed was both a farewell and a reclamation of self. A necklace from Sumit, once a symbol of love, was gently tucked away. Tears fell freely now as hours passed with the relentless focus of someone leaving not just a home, but a version of themselves behind. The confrontation. Sumit returned to the room and froze. The suitcase sat open like a silent messenger. Every hope, every attempt to console, every whispered promise of love collided with the unspoken truth. Jenny was leaving. "What is this?" he asked, his voice trembling. She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes, red and swollen, spoke volumes. Finally, in a fragile whisper, she said, "I can't stay here anymore." His face collapsed. He couldn't breathe. He clung to her hands, desperate, pleading. "You're not leaving. I can fix this. We can work it out. Please don't go." Jenny's words, however, were calm but resolute. "I've tried for years to survive here, to endure, to belong, but I can't. I can't keep sacrificing myself for a life that doesn't want me, for a family that refuses to see me, for a world that makes me invisible." The raw emotion. Sumit fell to the ground, tears streaming. Jenny knelt beside him, holding him, feeling the unbearable weight of destroying someone she loved more than life itself. Their grief intertwined. Two hearts in devastation, each aware that love alone could not mend what had been broken over a decade. She kissed the top of his head, whispered apologies, and gently released him from her embrace. She said, "I must go home. I must have a life where I belong." Even as she spoke, the room was heavy with the knowledge that this wasn't a choice made lightly. It was survival. And here is the question that lingers. Could Sumit have done something different? Could love alone have ever been enough? Or was this heartbreak inevitable the moment she first crossed the threshold into a world that refused to accept her?
The night before the goodbye. The apartment, once alive with laughter, debate, and shared routines, now felt suffocatingly quiet. Jenny curled up on the couch, clutching a pillow as if it were a lifeline to the life she once imagined she could have. Her eyelids, swollen from hours of tears, barely held back the memories pressing against her mind. The first moments in India, the nervous smiles, the tentative steps toward family acceptance. Every single memory now carried the bitter aftertaste of reality. She didn't belong here, and she never would. Meanwhile, Sumit sat on the edge of their bed, the weight of inevitability pressing on his chest. Every thought, every promise, every dream they had built together seemed to crumble like fragile glass. He whispered her name repeatedly, as if saying it out loud could stop the unraveling of a decade-long life. But words, no matter how fervent, could not hold back the force of what was coming. Morning arrived with cruel timing. The sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the suitcase on the bed, an unspoken harbinger of destruction. When Sumit entered the room, his heart nearly stopped. Every instinct screamed denial.